It all began on a quiet morning in Seoul. The sun rose behind the towers of glass and steel, casting soft gold across the Han River. People filled the streets as usual, walking, biking, grabbing coffee, heading to school or work. Everything looked peaceful. No one expected anything strange. No one imagined a monster would come from the sky that day. But that morning, a loud crack sounded in the sky. It wasn't thunder. It wasn't a plane. It was something else. Something old. Something impossible. Jihoon, a university student, was on his way to class. He wore headphones and walked fast, trying not to be late. When the sound shook the air, he stopped and looked. Up, the sky had torn open, like someone had cut it with a knife. A glowing hole hovered above the city round, wide and pulsing with blue light. People around him gasped. Some took out phones. Others ran. Jihoon just stared. Then something fell out of the hole. It was huge, bigger than a bus, with thick legs. And a long tail? It roared so loud that windows broke and cars stopped in the street. It hit the ground hard, crushing a small park and part of a building. Dust and smoke filled the air. Jihoon's heart pounded. A dinosaur? He whispered. But it wasn't just any dinosaur. It was a Tyrannosaurus Rex, big teeth, tiny arms, sharp yellow eyes. It stood, roared again, and began to walk. With each step, the ground trembled. A nearby car flipped over from the shock. People screamed and ran in every direction. Some froze. Others dropped their phones in shock. It was chaos. The T-Rex was confused. This wasn't its world. The air smelled wrong. The ground felt strange under its feet. Strange towers stood around it, taller than any tree it had ever seen. Loud, moving boxes with lights zoomed across black paths. It didn't know where it was, but it was hungry. Inside a nearby café, a girl named Hyejin crouched behind the counter. She had been serving coffee when the creature arrived. Now her hands shook as she held her breath. She peeked out the window and saw the monster moving toward a group of people. "Is this a dream?" she whispered to herself. Her coworker Daesung nodded slowly. "If it is, it's the worst dream ever." In another part of the city, at the Science and Defense Center, a group of engineers and scientists watched the scene unfold on screens. One of them, Dr. Kuhn, leaned close to the glass. "This can't be real," he said. "But it is." Somehow that wormhole it brought the past into the present. They had been testing a time simulation experiment. A safe hologram system, a way to teach people history. But something went wrong. Instead of showing a fake T-Rex, they had opened a real door to the past. A living dinosaur had come through. And now, the city was in danger. The T-Rex walked down a wide avenue. It stepped on cars. It bit into a bus. It roared at streetlights. People fled into subways, stores, and alleyways. Police tried to block off roads, but nothing could stop the beast. Bullets only made it angrier. At that moment, Jihoon saw a little girl crying in the middle of the road. Her mother was far behind, screaming her name. He didn't think. He just ran. The dinosaur turned its head. It saw Jihoon dash into the street. It sniffed. It smelled something warm, alive, fresh. It roared and moved faster. Jihoon grabbed the girl and held her close. "Hold on," he said, running toward a narrow alley. "Don't look back." The T-Rex chased them, smashing over a bench and throwing a motorcycle with its tail. But it was too big. It couldn't fit into the alley. It slammed its head into the walls, roaring in anger, then stomped off in another direction. Jihoon handed the girl to her crying mother. She hugged him tight. Thank you. Thank you. But there was no time to rest. All around them, the city was falling apart. Army had been called. Helicopters flew overhead. People shouted orders through radios. Scientists were rushing to fix the machine that had opened the sky. They believed more dinosaurs might come if they didn't close it soon. Dr. Kuhn sent a message to all city emergency teams. "We must distract the creature. Lure it away from civilians. By time, then we can trap it." That night, the city. Lights went dark in several districts. The T-Rex, drawn by noise and movement, wandered into a construction area. There the army had set up cranes, nets, and loudspeakers. They planned to lure it into a trap and knock it out, but no one knew if it would work. And worse, just as the soldiers moved in, the sky tore open again. Another roar echoed from above. Another shape fell through. This time, there were two, and they were bigger. The city was no longer fighting one monster, it was now facing three. The second dinosaur crashed through the sky like a falling truck. It had a horned face, a huge frill, and legs like tree trunks. People later called it a Triceratops. Behind! It came something even worse, a tall predator with sharp claws and a mouth wider than the T-Rex. It was a Giganotosaurus. Seoul, once bright and alive, was now full of screams and smoke. But the people were not giving up. At the Science and Defense Center, Dr. Kuhn stood over the map of the city. His hands were shaking, but his voice was calm. We can't fight them with strength. They are too big, too wild, he said. But we have something they don't. He looked at Jihoon, who was now working beside the scientists. We have minds that can plan. Jihoon nodded. We trap them, use the subways, use the old flood tunnels. The idea was risky, but it was their only chance. They would use sound and light to lead the dinosaurs into a deep, unused subway line beneath the city. Once inside, they would lock the gates and release sleeping gas. It was not about killing, it was about controlling. All over the city, speakers were placed on rooftops. Drones flew overhead, carrying strange machines that made deep animal sounds calls from the past. Loud, slow, and powerful. The dinosaurs listened. The T-Rex turned first. Its yellow eyes followed the drone above. It moved toward the sound, roaring but curious. The Giganotosaurus came next. The Triceratops followed last, moving slower but still dangerous. People hid in silence. On the street, Hai-Jin and Daesung stayed low in the café. They're moving, she whispered. Where? Daesung asked. Toward the river, toward the underground. She prayed the plan would work. The streets were empty, cars were left behind. Shops were broken. Still the dinosaurs followed the noise. Step by step, block by block, they reached the old train yard, where the ground opened into deep tunnels. The first one to enter was the T-Rex. Its head barely fit through the tunnel arch. The Giganotosaurus followed, its tail whipping the metal gate as it passed. The Triceratops hesitated but walked in last. Jihoon stood near the control room, watching the cameras. They're all inside, he said. Close the gates. With a heavy metal sound, the doors slammed shut behind them. Emergency locks clicked. Steel bars dropped. The dinosaurs were inside and trapped. From the vents above, white mist began to fall. The sleeping gas, the T-Rex, roared and slammed the walls. The Giganotosaurus snapped at the air. The Triceratops stomped and pushed. But it was no use. The gas was working. One by one, the monsters fell. Jihoon held his breath. His hands were tight on the controls. The screen showed the beasts breathing slower. The tunnel stopped shaking. It was over. Outside, people slowly came out from hiding. Families held each other. Children cried. Police officers dropped their guns and sank to the ground. Some laughed. Some prayed. We did it, Hai-Jin whispered as she stepped outside. In the control center, Dr. Kuhn sat down. He looked at Jihoon and smiled. You saved this city, he said. Jihoon shook his head. Not me. All of us. We used our brains. That's how humans win. That night, the city lit up again. The skies were clear. The wormhole was gone. Scientists confirmed that the time tear had closed. No more dinosaurs would come. The sleeping giants were moved carefully to a special holding center outside the city. Scientists would study them. Maybe one day they could return them to their time, but for now, the city had peace. On the rooftop of the cafe, Jihoon looked out at the skyline. The towers still stood. The streets were damaged, but alive. People were rebuilding already. He smiled to himself. "We are small," he said quietly, "but we are strong." Below him the city lights glowed once more.